Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go over some of the symbols and allusions and even the names in A Raisin in the Sun. This was an assignment you had to do, so I just want to kind of go over some of these and make sure we're kind of on the same page. So the first part has a chart with some symbols. Remember that a symbol is a concrete object that you can touch or see or feel, something kind of physical within this world. And then what it represents is something abstract, an idea that can't necessarily be held onto or touched or felt or seen in the physical world. So the first symbol was Mama's plant. And so again, that's a concrete object representing both the family and their dreams. So in my explanation, the plant is a metaphor for the family and their dreams. She wants to see it grow and become healthy. So Mama does. She wants to see it grow and become healthy in the same way that she desires her children to follow their dreams. In the same way that she tries to nourish her children's dreams, she wants her plant to be nourished. And so she talks about that a few times in the actual play. Light and sunlight. Again, that's not something you necessarily touch, sunlight or light, but it is something you see, and so you do experience it in the physical world. And I think that the light or sunlight represents happiness, fulfillment, and encouragement. In the beginning of Acts 1 and 3, the light is dim on stage, which reflects the character's hopeless and frustrated feelings. Also, Ruth is very focused on how much sunlight the new home will have. She looks forward to having more sunlight, happiness, and fulfillment in the home. Finally, Mama is very concerned about how much light her plant gets. If her plant represents dreams and her family, it suggests that those dreams need that encouragement and hope in order to come to fruition and not become deferred or dried up like a raisin in the sun. Speaking of a raisin in the sun, that's the next symbol. And I think it represents the detrimental effects of racism on the soul. As in the poem that the title comes from, when a dream is put off or deferred, hopelessness and despair rot a person's soul. It's clear in the play that one of the primary forces that work against the family's dreams is a racist oppression. So the family's hopes and dreams dry up like a raisin in the sun as a result. Although we know that some of their dreams do come to fruition. The clothes from Africa and Beneatha's hair are both kind of connected. The clothes from Africa represent Black pride and power that is unspoiled by America and by American slavery in particular. So the clothes, Beneatha, we know, does not agree with assimilation. She believes that assimilating is a form of kind of bowing down to the oppressor. So in an attempt to combat any form of submission to white people, she delights in celebrating her cultural roots from Africa. As she dances in the living room in her Nigerian clothes from Assegai, she is celebrating the culture and the autonomy of Africans and demonstrating a desire to fight against assimilation, right? Assimilating would mean that she dresses more similar to the white dominant culture. And so when she wears the African clothes, she is not assimilating and instead demonstrating a pride in not assimilating, right? And in kind of the power and pride of African culture. Her hair, very similarly, I think represents that choice between assimilation and cultural pride. In Act 1, Assegai comments on how much effort Beneatha has put into making her hair less natural or mutilated. He makes her feel as though flattening or curling her hair is a form of assimilation and that she should be proud of her natural hair. And then in Act 2, complete opposite, George Murchison comments on Beneatha's more natural look and makes fun of her for it. So George Murchison is the poster child for assimilation since his family has fully assimilated, so much so that he has even become wealthy within the dominant culture. So some allusions and names. First one, how is Ruth like the biblical Ruth? So the character of Ruth, just like the biblical Ruth, there is a deep affection for the mother-in-law. So biblical Ruth ends up actually moving in and taking care of and kind of supporting her mother-in-law, Naomi, in the same way that Ruth in the play is very, very supportive of and friendly with her mother-in-law, Mama. There's also a spirit of sacrifice amongst both of them. Ruth hardly ever complains about what she does or has to do for the family and for herself. And both are rewarded favorably by God. We know Ruth from the Bible is. She ends up being able to carry on her name and not her name, but her family line, and even her family line leads to the Savior, to Jesus. And then Ruth in the play is also rewarded favorably. She got her house, her husband, and a new child. So good for Ruth. Number 2, how does the name Beneatha symbolize her personality at the play's beginning? Hey, there's probably a lot of good answers for this. The one that I went with is that she has a sense of superiority, and she feels that a lot of people are beneath her because she has higher aspirations, or she has more noble aspirations, or whatever. She also seems to have a contempt for Walter in general. And again, I think she thinks that he is beneath her. And also Mama's view of God. So she seems to feel like she has the inside scoop on why God is not worthy of our praise, right? And so that might just be one explanation for why her name Beneatha is significant. Number 3, why does George Murchison call Walter Prometheus? Again, I've talked about this one in the past. We know that Walter continually calls himself a giant among ants, and Prometheus was a giant in Greek mythology. But to further that, Prometheus also stole from Zeus for the good of humanity and was chained as punishment. That's kind of his story within Greek mythology. So George calling Walter this might be a little bit sarcastic, because Walter is probably more selfish than selfless, whereas Prometheus stole for others. Walter doesn't seem to have others in mind. He's more kind of self-centered. Or perhaps he notices that Walter is chained by the bonds of self-pity. I don't know. Just something to think about. Number 4, how does the name Younger have significance at the end of the play? This is the Younger family, right? Walter Younger, Ruth Younger, Beneatha Younger. That's their last name. And I think at the end of the play in particular, there's a sense of rebirth and renewal of the family's pride. They have a younger spirit, right? They are kind of renewed at the end, and they're excited and kind of like youth. Okay. And then also at the end, Walter finally acts like a younger version of his father, right? His father who maintained the family's pride and took care of his family and honored the life of the babies of his family, right? So perhaps it's Walter finally stepping into a younger version of his father. And then number 5, why does Assagai call Beneatha Alayo, meaning one for whom the bread is not enough? We've talked about this a little bit as well. I think it has to do with her search for identity. She doesn't just want what everybody else wants. She wants more. She will always want more. She desires more than just the basics needed for life. She needs a sense of self-pride. She needs to have a good sense of who she is, and she needs to feel fulfilled. And so that's what Assagai means when he calls her Alayo. Thanks. That's it.